1. I've been the proud parent of a green-cheeked conure, a small parrot species. She's Clang for about a year and a half now, and she's part of the family. We've never been away from her for more than a couple of hours. But this past weekend, me and my family went off on a 3-night trip to visit with friends about 3 hours away, and stayed at a hotel. We had about 8 people in total, 3 rooms at the hotel and 2 rooms at other nearby hotels. Before leaving, I emailed the hotel and asked about whether their pets policy covered birds. They said, unfortunately, it does. Service animals only. I thanked them for answering, and arranged boarding with the local vet. It'd be her first time in boarding. We dropped off Clang and headed to the hotel on Friday afternoon. Friends trickled in throughout the evening. We'd gotten a suite, and the hotel had helpfully grouped our rooms around it, so we had a place to all hang out. At about 9 p.m., the vet called. They'd left Clang's food door open while moving her to the car, and she'd gotten out a few hours earlier. They said they searched till sunset, then called me. I told my friends, and it kinda killed the mood for the rest of the night. I know the odds of getting a lost parrot back are nearly 0. My friends encouraged me to let the vet search, since my going back wouldn't change anything, but, how can I not? In the morning, I woke up at about 6 a.m., a bit hungover and having only slept a couple hours. My husband was still asleep, but I knew I had to go back and try to help look. Even if it doesn't help, I can't just sit there and do nothing, right? I mean, usually birds are found when they show up at somebody's house begging for food, not from searching, but still. So I got my car from valet and drove 3 hours back home, got her treats and a spare miniature cage, and went off to look. Being home briefly was hard because I was already internalizing that I'd never see our birdie again, and everything at home made me think of her. After about 45 minutes of searching, I realized I needed to eat something, so I went across a fairly major street to a gas station. Nobody thought she would have crossed that street, so we weren't looking over there. While across the street, I see some crows acting oddly, so I went over, and sure enough, as soon as I rounded the corner, I heard her distinctive cries. Then I saw her being chased around by crows and her in full terrified mode, flying from tree to power line. I called the vet and we all converged on her. After a lot of coaxing, she came down for food and I was able to grab her. She's super hand tame with me. At home, I wouldn't have thought twice, but she was scared. I took her to the vet's office, and besides some weight loss, she was fine. I brought her home, then realized, what now? After discussing with my husband, I decided to call the front desk of our hotel. I told them the whole story and said I know the pet's rules, but I really don't want to leave her in boarding after what she and we had been through. She totally understood, and said they are probably willing to let her come as a service animal in terms of the paperwork, but she has to talk to her manager since he'll be the one at the desk when I get back. I put on some YouTube videos and dozed with Clang in the living room for a couple hours. When she got back to me, everything is a go. We'd be allowed to bring her. I just need to check with the desk when I get back, fill in their service animal paperwork, and agree to pay if she damages anything. So I threw Clang in the car, travel cage and all, after checking the foot doors. And we did the 3-hour trip back to the hotel. I checked in at the front desk. They said not to bother with the paperwork, just go ahead. So we brought her to the room. And she got to meet all my friends. She was an absolute angel the whole weekend, too, and loved all the attention. She ended up being the mascot and hero of the trip. We're back home now, and she's back to her usual mischief. I just wrote the hotel a glowing review and thanked the FDA by name for saving our trip, without mentioning they bent the rules. And here we are. I'm so happy that everything worked out, and wanted to share that story with other folks. 2. I was preparing to make this whole day-by-day log of the chaos surrounding this couple, but they called to inform me they would be leaving as I was typing up the events of the past 48 hours. Anyways, here is the tale of Mr. and Mrs. 9 Nights. They check in shortly after 6 p.m. on a 9-night stay. Mrs. 9 Nights asks if they can be moved up to the top floor. We apologize and let her know that we're entirely booked up, that we're unable to move them. She seems a little disgruntled, but they go into their room after getting some dinner recommendations. We get a call from their room around 6:15. The TV isn't working. I go up to take a look at it. Normally, it's just that housekeeping moved the TV while cleaning and the power cord come out just enough to make it so it doesn't work. The TV is on, but it's all static. I check the input, and when that checked out, I decided to play with the channel buttons. I went down a channel, and what do you know? It went to the highest channel we have available. Either these two accidentally punched in a non-channel or the guest in the room before them had. They thank me, and I head back down as they get ready for dinner. Around 8 p.m., Mrs. Nine Nights stomps in and asks where she's supposed to park as our lot is full. We have less spaces in rooms, so this happens. No worries though, as the business right next door allows us to use their lot for overflow, which we inform her of. She's not pleased. Who's going to pay for her new car when it gets stolen? My coworker and I give each other "is this lady serious" looks, as neither of us were aware of the impenetrable anti-criminal barrier around our property, before reassuring her that the neighboring business is just as safe as we are, and she has nothing to worry about. She storms out to her car. Minutes later, she comes back in with her husband, who asks if we're totally sure his car won't be damaged. We tell him what we told his wife: no one has ever had a problem with parking there, and we doubt anything will happen now. They sigh, and go up to the room. Not 2 minutes later, they call down to the front desk. They have no heat or air conditioning in their room, despite the unit working perfectly fine earlier. My coworker goes up to check on the room and can't figure anything out, so he texts our boss, GM and part owner, to see if there's any troubleshooting he knows of. My coworker goes to check the breaker switch per our boss's suggestion. Our boss rolls up around 8:20 p.m. to lend my coworker a hand. The breakers seem fine, so they decide to just leave them a box fan and space heater for the night, while I set up a dummy reservation in our boss's name to make sure we have a room to move the couple to in the morning. This next bit is second-hand from another coworker, so some of the details are a bit fuzzy, despite her relaying them to me 6 hours ago. Oops. Mr. and Mrs. Nine Nights are in their room and come down for breakfast. After eating, they come up to the front desk and complain to my boss about some issue that I can't quite remember. What I do remember, my coworker, telling me, is that our boss told the couple exactly what was wrong with their room. See, told them they were the cause of most of their problems, but with corporate flair, and sent them on their way. All is quiet until about 7:30 p.m. tonight. I get a call from Mr. Nine Nights, saying that the person in the room above them is stomping around, and he's banging on the ceiling, but he's clearly not listening. I apologize, and despite it being 2.5 hours before our scheduled quiet time, tell them I'll give the guest above them a call. Before calling, I check A, to make sure I'm calling the correct room, as some of our numbering is weird, and B, see who this supposed aerobics enthusiast is. They're a long-stay guest, part of a company block, specifically one of the people I've built up a bit of a rapport with. You might as well get to know the people you'll be passing by and asking for towels every day, yeah? I call the room and tell the guest that I'm just calling to check off a box that, if he's herding elephants or something similar in his room, to please hold off on it for the time being. They let me know that they've just been sitting and watching TV, and that he's not sure how the people below him would think he's stomping around. I apologize for the disturbance and hang up. 10 or so minutes later, the husband calls to tell me they'll be checking out, as they are fed up with all of the issues they have faced, and will not accept being talked down to by other guests. I apologize for the lackluster accommodations and for anything I might have said or done that came across as offensive. He said I had done nothing wrong, which is a first in this sort of situation. I shorten their stay and make a note on the reg card and in our logbook. Maybe 5 minutes later, the one-person mosh pit comes down for a smoke, but not before stopping by my desk. They apologize for upsetting the other guests and explain that our specific hotel brand tends to have wooden floors which aren't great for noise dampening. He also let me know that the 9 Nights called him to ask him to be quiet, and tried to explain that the fact that he has been trying to walk quietly so that they don't disturb the guests below I assure them they have done nothing wrong, and thank them for being a reasonable human being. While leaving, Mrs. Nine Nights grumbled about being cussed out by another guest, which no one had told me about until now, so I'm taking it with a grain of salt. I was unable to refund them as they booked and paid through an OTA, so they've said they'll be calling my boss in the morning. I'm just sad I'll be missing out on their wonderful company. A little while later, I was talking to my boss about these guests, and he told me what the other issues were. They said the fan in their room wasn't working, and neither was their coffee maker. We have a central system for the bathroom fans, so they're never off, and if they were, everyone would be having problems with their fans. As for the coffee maker, the type we have is so everything must be done in a specific order, which is probably why it wasn't working. With their permission, he went up to the room to check it out, and lo and behold, it worked just fine. 3. This story started on the 20th of September 2021. Sister Smith came into the hotel for a room. Friar Tuck, yes, they had friar robes on, from the church came to pay for the room. Every day she would come to the office, acting so happy, talking about how she was worried about her son, how he is in the military and overseas, though she acted like she was getting or would be getting money from him. Well, originally he paid only for 2 days, then paid for another 2 days and 1 day, so she left. She came back a day later. I do not know if she paid herself or someone else paid for her again. Stayed 3 days. Then she left again. But this time leaving all her stuff in the room. The next day she is still not back, so we pack all her stuff up and put it in the lost and found. Well, 2 nights ago she came back, dressed in only a 2-piece hospital garb. The type that is in the front and back with buttons down the sides. Being the nice person I am, I was not asking her to leave then. A mistake on my part. She asked if she had any mail. She was using us and 2 other hotels as mail drops. She said she was working with someone about getting her stimulant money and economic recovery money, helping her fax some paperwork. In the morning, she claimed to be off to the local church to sing. Later that day, she came back and left her stuff in the front and took off. Now that is sad, here is the good part. She came back the next day and was told we would not be letting her stay anymore. Gone was sweet Sister Smith and hello Demon Smith. She actually called the police on us, saying that it was wrong that we would not let her stay. When one of her long-term guests came and got his package, she told the police we had criminals getting illegal packages from overseas. I take it because he is Hispanic. He has to be a criminal. He and the other people who stay at our place almost year-round are the nicest people you will ever meet. They even helped the lady fix her luggage zipper when it broke. To all the ladies out there, the best way to describe what he looks like, take Chris Evans when he steps out of the super soldier chamber. Chris looked like fat bastard after he lost all the weight in Austin Powers 3 compared to this guy. He turned around and said his package was from Fit and Stitch. She told the police that he called her a slitch bitch. When I said no he did not, she told the police she did not care who I was, because I do not go to church and she does not deal with people who do not go. While waiting for the police to show up, she kept walking back and forth outside, looking at us, giving us a look as if she was trying to set us on fire. She came in one more time, putting an envelope on the desk saying that this is ours. Kept arguing that she takes it or we give it to the police. She goes back outside, leaving it there. She did try calling her friends for help, now saying that she has to plan a funeral and has a cousin with COVID and pneumonia, saying she was getting kicked out of her home. Everyone she called hung up on her. The local taxi company will not come for her anymore. She then came in saying that the issue is not with us, but with the mob, and she now needs federal protection. Well, the police finally came, told her in a calm voice to come out. She told him not to yell at her, and she was coming. As fast as a southbound snail on a northbound turtle. Got her stuff, stood next to the police car, and would only tell the officer that she wanted federal protection. She then dropped both her purse and bag in front of the officer, telling them that she did not want them, and expected him to pick them up and put them in the car. Then she now claimed all her kids were dead, and while looking at the officer said, "I know who killed them." Remember, she has been saying her son was in the military overseas. I do feel sorry for our local officers. They are overworked, underpaid, and do not deserve to have to put up with shit like this. The day after this happened, she actually called to try to make a reservation for 7 days. Was told no. And a while after that she shows up again. We told her she needs to leave the property. She said, "I will be sued for everything I owe," which is nothing. And then she accused me of doing vulgar things. 4. I'm sure other front desk clerks know about the whole don't rent to locals policy some individual hotels run. For those that don't know, generally some hotels have rules where they refuse rental to locals, unless in cases of emergencies like fires or unsafe living conditions. Or sometimes we get guests that are building a house and need a place to stay for lack of any other place. The reason for this is because some places have issues with locals throwing parties, doing drugs, or engaging in prostitution. My hotel also likes to use the valid excuse that we want to keep rooms open for people who are traveling and have no place to stay, rather than give a room to someone who does have a home in the city. We always check ID upon check-in, and if someone is local, we usually field them a question asking what their reason for the stay is, in as friendly a way as possible to strike up a conversation. Sometimes we get people that live in the city that make reservations for family members coming from out of town. So as long as the ID of the person checking in and staying at our hotel is in another city, we'll let them stay and update their reservation information appropriately. So with that information out of the way, let's begin the story. The guest, B, comes in and lets me know she has a reservation. I welcome her, of course, she is very friendly, and per policy request her ID and the card she would like to pay with. When I look at her ID, I notice that she is a local. Casually, I ask her what fun things she's got planned that had her stay in our hotel.
"Oh, I just wanted to get out the house and let my kids have fun in the pool."
Which is not one of the reasons we let locals stay in our hotel. I let her know that we aren't supposed to rent to locals, to which she says that no one told her that on the phone, seeing as how she was very nice, and we needed rooms to be booked. I understand, ma'am, I will check you in, but just know, for the future, that you probably will not be able to stay at our hotel because you are local. We want to keep it fair and make sure we have rooms for people that are traveling out of the city, and do not have a place to stay. Of course, B mumbles about how that isn't fair, and that she didn't know, but I was willing to bend the rules for her just because she was paying full price for one night. So I get her checked in and give her her key cards. I let her know about our breakfast, our cookies, tell her where her room is located, and tell her about our pool, and that if she needs towels, she can grab some from us. She takes her key cards and leaves out the door to grab her things, or so I thought. A few minutes later, I get a call. Our caller ID tells me it's B, and so I answer.
"Hi, I wanted to talk to a manager."
"I apologize, but there is no manager here today. If you would like, I could take your name and number, and see if they can try to get in contact with you when they next come in."
"Oh no, I was just there, and I didn't know you guys didn't rent to locals. And I felt like I wasn't welcomed at all. I want to cancel my reservation."
Naturally, I'm gobsmacked because, what? Lady, I checked you in. I could have denied you. Instead, I bent the rules and let her get checked in, gave her her key cards, despite her being a local, and only told her that in the future she could not stay at our hotel as a local unless there is an emergency. So I respond telling her that I will see what I can do for her reservation. I personally did not want to cancel her reservation and wanted to charge her because she took my act of goodwill and smacked it in my face. But I wanted to field it to my manager first before I took the initiative. I sit down next to my coworker who is getting ready to leave and call my manager. I let her know what happened and that I feel like we should still charge her. My manager said I did everything right, and we checked her in despite her being a local. So that's that. My coworker calls the guest and leaves a message. B immediately rejected the call when my coworker called, telling her that per our policy we require a 24-hour notice for cancellation, and that she will be charged for her room. A bit later, B calls again and asks why she is being charged. She still sounds like she's on the verge of absolute tears, and even though I was still adamant about charging her, I did feel bad, if only because I'm a damn baby and a whoopee, and if people cry I get sad. In any case, I let her know as politely and sweetly as I could. That is our cancellation policy.
I've stayed in so many of your hotels, and I've never had any issues.
Okay, you can stay at those hotels still, but in this hotel it is our policy that we do not rent to locals unless there is an emergency.
But that's not fair. How would you feel if you were told you weren't allowed to stay at the hotel? Especially when I just wanted my kids to have fun.
If I got told by employees that it is policy that they cannot rent to locals, and I am a local without an emergency, I would understand and go home. Ma'am, I want to remind you that despite you being a local, I still checked you in and gave you your key cards, so you had permission to stay at our hotel for this reservation, because when you made your reservation over the phone, the employee didn't tell you we don't rent to locals. That is why I checked you in, because I felt bad you weren't told this when you made your reservation, and I was just letting you know that in the future you cannot make reservations with us because you are a local. Again, if you like, I can take your name and number, and leave it in case you would still like management to give you a call to potentially discuss it. But my manager gave us the go-ahead to charge you, and that is what we will do for now. So I take her name and number, text my manager, and tell her she would still like to be contacted. You would think that would be the end of it. But then a bit later, I get a call from, I think, another employee from a different hotel, some sort of customer service, and he was trying on behalf of B because she wanted to cancel her reservation without a charge because she did not feel welcome at our hotel. So I'm just like, okay, so we've already told her twice now. The reason she does not feel welcome is because as I was checking her in, I told her we were not allowed to rent to locals. I told her next time she would not be allowed to stay with us as a local. But we can still keep her reservation for tonight as she wasn't told as such when she first made her reservation. I initially gave her keycards to our room and told her where our pool was, and told her we had cookies and when breakfast was and where her room was. And he was genuinely like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'll go ahead and tell her she's still going to be charged. Thank you. And that was all that happened with her. No more calls. The rest of the night was a shit show, but at least this was funny, even if it was infuriating. 5. I had a lady come to my window last night. We will call her Mrs. C, with her friend to complain about her room. When she approached my window, the first thing out of her mouth was, "Please don't hate me." I did my best to assure her that we don't, outwardly, hate any of our guests at our resort. I checked the notes of her reservation, and it showed, "Guest is aware we don't have any of specific room type available for their stay." The guest then acknowledged this information, but claimed she comes here often, usually with a large group, and they always stay in that room type. I apologized and informed Mrs. C. Unfortunately, Mrs. C., those rooms are already committed for the night. We can try to put you in for a room change to the other tower per your request, but it is dependent on availability, and your room type isn't currently found in that tower, so it'd be a downgrade for you to move. However, I found a lower room type in preferred tower with a city view. Would you like me to put in for the request to change? This did not satisfy Mrs. C. No, my room is depressing, but it's got a view. I need a room in the other tower with that same view. At this point, I could see exactly where this was going. She was now openly stating how the room she's in sucks and how she's close to leaving our property and leaving a bad review. I was moments away from telling her, well, ma'am, if that's your prerogative, I'm sorry we weren't able to reach a mutual agreement. I don't believe you have no rooms in that tower with that view, she snapped, shortly after I came back into reality. Well, Mrs. C., it's not that we don't have those rooms, it's just that we are at 90% occupancy tonight, and this information is what's available to me. If you would like, I can call my rooms coordinator and... Why is everything a phone call? Why isn't it just here? Ma'am, the rooms coordinator has a very involved job within our department to ensure that we properly manage our 3,000 plus Well, why don't they run this desk? Why even have you here? I demand to speak to them. She exclaimed as she jabbed a finger towards me. Now, by this time, one thing I've noticed is she has an incredibly hard time maintaining eye contact. I don't know if it's because she has a hard time lying to my face or what, but it wasn't doing her any favors. I'm sorry, Mrs. C, but I cannot have you speak to them. However, I can call a manager if you'd like. Oh, you call a manager? Yeah, you do that. So, per her request, I picked up the phone and dialed the manager. Hello, this is Mr. Awesome Manager. So what's up, Mark Stone's hair? I explain the situation, and he puts me on a brief hold and informs me that he'll be right out. Upon his arrival, she starts going on and on about how she's been coming here since we opened, with a large group, and has never been treated so disrespectfully, yada yada. Anyways, Mr. Awesome Manager informs her that he made a call to our exclusive department, and that they were able to find a downgraded room type with a view, and asks if she'd like to move there. I'd like to see the room to ensure it's not as depressing. I'm sorry, Mrs. C, that is not something we can provide at this moment. We can hold this room until tomorrow morning for you to decide if you'd like to switch, but we cannot have you go up to the room to inspect it. He replied as I saw him prepare for the worst. Well, that doesn't make very much sense. The room is ready and I can't go see it? Unfortunately not. However, if you direct your attention to this iPad, we have a virtual room tour you can take. He said as he scrolled down to the room type. I seriously can't believe you can't even let me see the room. Well, Mrs. C, you can see the room right here, as he gestured to the iPad. There is a moment of silence as Mrs. C huffs. I'll decide in the morning if I'm even going to continue staying here. You're a great manager, by the way. She spat as she is clearly used to throwing tantrums and getting her way. With that, we made a note of it, as I was going to make a recovery ticket for her in our system. We noticed there was already one, and it was quite lengthy, filled with much of the same theatrics as this encounter. I'm off today, the next morning, but I'm kind of disappointed as I feel she's the type to escalate to the point of a trespass, and honestly, I love seeing security haul entitled people out of our lobby. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Coahw, episode 74. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please do like and subscribe. If you would like to see more such videos in your subscriptions feed. Alright, I think we actually have 2 birthday shoutouts today. Let's see. Hang on, that one. Ooh, okay, I just got one in for the 25th. That's a little close, but I think we can make that happen. That'll be for tomorrow, though, but I have 2 for today. That folder should be right at the top there. There it is. Alright, let's see. First birthday shout-out goes to... Oh, actually, we'll have 2 tomorrow as well. Okay. First birthday shout-out goes to... It's actually a triple, technically. It goes to... Miss Cat and her brother Lightning Wolf 24. They both are 19 today. A very happy birthday to both of you. And may you have a wonderful and joy-filled day. And no fighting. You kids, you hear? No fighting. I will turn this shout-out around if there's any fighting. Now, I do have another one. This is going to be awkward, isn't it? Right, so that one was there. And this one. Alright, the next one. This one goes to Jonathan. This one was sent in by your wife. Well, her name is, I think, Pichanel? Or is it Pichanel? Something like that. One of those pronunciations is probably accurate. They're both long-time subscribers, and Jonathan is 34 today. I hope she's treating you right today, Jonathan. Well, I hope she's treating you right every day, just as I hope you're treating her right. She did mention that you both found my channel together 5 years ago, not long after you started dating, so I now have a vested interest in this relationship. Alright, let's see. I think all that remains is for me to work out how to sing happy birthday to 3 people. Jonathan and the twins. It's like a superhero team, isn't it? Let's see. I certainly haven't forgotten the twins' names already. No siree. Ah, there we go. Miss Cat and Lightning, both 24. Alright, let's see how this goes. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Miss Cat. Lightning Wolf. Dear Jonathan. Happy birthday to you. Alrighty, that went a little better than I thought, and I think we're going to wrap things up there for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.